fact that I've been here for 27 years living in the UAE, and for me it's been such a pleasant and wonderful experience. So I'm now on a mission to discover other people's experiences on how they have made the UAE their home. Today we come to the El Majaz waterfront, known as the beating heart of the city. Located in the vibrant heart of the city of Sharjah, El Majaz waterfront covers an area of 231,000 square feet, featuring stunning scenery overlooking the Kharib Lagoon. And my guest today in this episode will be Mr. Kamraan Siddiqui, a long-time resident of the UAE and a lover of travel and tourism, as well as being an expert in HR consultancy. He'll tell us his story and how he's seen Sharjah change over the years and become one of the popular hotspots for travel and tourism. So I guess to start with, the first question is always, please tell us about yourself. Who is Kamraan?
Oh, who's Kamraan? Yes, well, I'm Kamraan Siddiqui. I was born in England and grew up in England, but I consider myself a global citizen because travel has been a really large part of my life. And it's been part of my history, my makeup, whether it's for work or for personal reasons.
Okay.
Actually, from the ages of 1 to 10, I grew up in the Middle East because my father was an engineer. So I spent time in Libya, Bahrain, Yemen, Saudi. So I had very happy memories of growing up in that period, and then afterwards came back to UK for the studies and education, for the GCSEs, and then I did my degree in London as a civil engineer at Imperial College. But then soon afterwards, I felt really buildings wasn't really the thing which I was so interested in. I was more interested in people.
Okay.
So I moved my career towards humanitarian field, development, helping improve society.
So it's like a complete switch around.
Yeah, I mean, I like buildings. I like bridges. But the buildings, I like to see the buildings come together and what's behind it and how you put it together. So I found I was more interested in the people side of things.
If I'm not mistaken, I could be, you can correct me, isn't Imperial College considered to be one of the best or the best in the world for civil engineering?
Yeah, it's a top 10 university in the world. It's number one.
So you said there would have been a lot of effort to even get in there. So it's interesting you made that switch over.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was feeling that actually having spent all that time and effort and to get through the degree, I think you thrash out all interest you have in the course by just studying it to death. But I like things about engineering, and it helped me, with my mindset, working in a systematic way and so on. But it really wasn't for me. And I mentioned at the beginning that travel is a large part of my makeup, and a lot of my philosophy is that life is a journey. And so you travel along the way, you learn things, you pick up things. So I think my journey took me to UAE through this way. So the engineering was an important part, but it wasn't really for me. And working with governments and with humanitarian field was my area. I got involved with, work in charities. I've been to war zones and seen the natural disasters and floods and famines. And so that was really something which really was, I wouldn't say interested, but something I really felt I'd like to get involved with.
So in that sense, am I right in understanding then that you, after graduating, you went and worked within a humanitarian organization, or?
Yes, I managed some organizations. Yeah, I worked as an engineer for a while, then it felt it wasn't for me. Then I worked in the humanitarian field. I worked with the UK government, NGOs. I worked in Afghanistan. I worked in projects all over the world. So again, traveling was part of my history, if you like. And then after a period, I got very much involved, I think the last 24 years in Bosnia.
Okay.
So because it's a post-war country, and I was interested after the war, so I think for the last 24 years I've been involved with the country. And in the last maybe 10 years, I set up a company called Holiday Bosnia for travel and tourism, to bring people to have a holiday, to have a good time, connect with the local communities, and also do some other stuff like charity work. So it's actually a social enterprise. So most of our profit goes back into charity projects in the community.
So it's more like a grassroots initiative. So the
Yeah,
idea is to create tourism, but where rather than the money going to all the fancy resorts, whatever, you try.
Yes.
From what I've read a bit or learned is that you try to house people, for example, in a Bosnian village, in a traditional Bosnian cottage, where
Yeah.
there'll be a source of income also for those
Yes, exactly.
poor.
Yes, well, the approach I've really taken is a values-based approach, mainly around Islamic values. Actually, the concept that you travel somewhere, you learn something, you do something with society, physical, social, and spiritual. So all that. So of course, it's open for everyone, for any background, any faith, or none. But the concept is values-based. So yeah, we connect people with the local communities. You see the nice things, have fun, have a nice trip, enjoy the food, and then you give something back, in the community. So yeah, the company is called Holiday Bosnia, surprisingly, and it's been quite effective. And we won the Global Islamic Economy Award.
I was going to say I saw an award. I think it was being given to you by
Sheikh Mohammed, yes,
Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, the ruler of
yes.
Dubai.
Yes.
I remember seeing that picture where he's giving you the award. So this was an award
Yes.
for this Bosnian tourism company that you opened.
Yes, because it's not just tourism; it's with a purpose,
Okay.
So that was that's what I did. But I came eventually in 2008. I came to Dubai to work with the government in Dubai on education and employment, and that's how my journey's brought me here.
So your current role, what is your current role? I mean, if you don't like to mention the where exactly you work, but what is the role that you actually do now?
Sure, no problem. I mean, I work with government, different roles, but yeah, I work on. I initially came in to look at the workforce strategy for Dubai. There's a lot of people coming in with skills and competencies, and that makes the economy grow. So you need human capital because people drive economies. So the aim was to look at, as Dubai and UAE is growing exponentially, how do you make sure the right type of people are brought in to keep growing the economy? And a large part of that work was on Emiratization, to make sure Emiratis get really, the good positions in the private sector, to look after their country and develop their country. I've also looked at the training and education infrastructure of Dubai as well.
So that's interesting because you're still working, like you said, you left as you mentioned, the building side of things
Yes.
to the human side of things. So you've left the engineering, you went into humanitarian. You're still working within human resources,
Social development,
and human resources as
yes,
well. And
yes.
there's obviously still the angle,
Yes.
Of development there. But you've still kept the humanitarian side going within this tourism, which you said is tourism with a goal, with a
yes.
higher purpose and value than just your standard, flashy.
Yes, it's not about the
flashy
money. Yes.
holidays as such.
Yeah, as I said, money is secondary for that. It's about giving people the right experience and actually opening the visitors' eyes as well. So giving away from the mass tourism, more towards the quality type of tourism. And actually, I think that's the way for future of tourism. Even before COVID, I was interested in this. Now, I think after COVID, we're seeing a lot of people interested in that sort of quality type of approach, engaging with communities and giving something back, especially the younger generations, the millennials or the generation, what they call now Zs, something like that. I don't know, I've gone off this game. XYZs have gone off there. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really happy. And when I started doing all this years ago, I didn't imagine myself sitting in UAE, with all these great ideas and great people involved in all types of projects. So yeah.
So you mentioned you came over and what you did, but I guess the question I always like to ask is, what were your expectations before coming here? Like, what did you expect it to be like?
Yes. Well, having grown up very happily in the Middle East, in the good old days, in the 70s, I was very much thinking it was going to be similar to that, so I was expecting it's going to be the, sort of very, almost you live in your little sort of bubble as an expat, having fun and but in your own little world. But when I came here, it's totally, not what I expected. I mean, UAE is very dynamic. It's so multinational. It's so mixed. It's, amazing mix of people from all over the world and the Emirati community as well, with their own contributions. So yeah, it was not at all like I was expecting it. It's very dynamic, very fast moving. I I was also very surprised because I thought it'd be one monolithic type of society, but actually, it's 7 Emirates, it's like 7 brothers, each with their own personality.
Yeah.
So all of them have got something extra to add in. So that's really, I found that fascinating. So yeah, it was not what I expected at all.
But, I mean, what really would you say, apart from what you've mentioned, what really stood out to you? Something that you could say when I came here, this really stood out about Sharjah, the UAE.
Well, the UAE definitely, as I said, it's the dynamic nature of the country, the fact that there's something for everyone. That's what I really love about UAE. That's wherever you're coming from, whatever you like to do, there's something for everyone in a small country, and everybody's treated with respect, which I really enjoy to see, and everybody's given a chance, to grow and develop themselves. And I think there's not many countries in the world I can think of like that, and I've traveled to quite a few. With Sharjah, especially, there's certain things which I consider in Sharjah. Number one, it's always for me a very cultural place. So I have friends here, artists and stuff, so they take me to the arts museum in Sharjah, where you see wide range of Arab artists and Emirati artists as well. Also, I've been so for the cultural side, yeah, I mean there's plenty for me to do here. Art gallery, there's the Museum of Islamic Civilization. I'm a big history buff, so I really enjoyed visiting that place. You can see the astrolabes and things going back to the 7th century, glassware and coins, dinar coins and stuff. There's also the Maritime Museum, where you can learn all about the history of the pearl fishing industry here, which is again fascinating, and also the aquarium inside that place. I mean, I found that fascinating as well. There's about 150 types of sea life there.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. So I always consider Sharjah to be a cultural hub, shall I say cultural capital of UAE. Aside that, also I really liked in Sharjah the nature. Sometimes, living in Dubai, there's many things there I like, but I get a nice contrast when I come to Sharjah. I can go to Khor, for example, get away from the crowds, have a really beautiful beaches, very chilled out location.
It's interesting you mentioned that as well, because a lot of what you said, we see this as a reoccurring. Everyone shares the same kind of thoughts, about the culture, about the places you can visit, not just recreational, like you mentioned, educational. And you obviously mentioned Khor, and we actually had an episode that was covered Khor, and it's interesting that since we've had that episode and since we're filming now, we've had that Suhub rest area that's been opened by the ruler.
Fantastic.
Which gives you I don't know if you've seen the coverage on it, but it gives you the whole view of Khor. It has a restaurant, and it's been like
fantastic.
Really, really busy.
There's
People are having to be turned away because they're trying to get in there to go up and have a look at it.
I think there's a lot of potential. So many places in Sharjah, which is hidden gem. It's everything's very real. I mean, there's also Kalba as well, where it's got a really wonderful wetland, beautiful animal life, bird life. I really enjoy that area. You can do kayaking and stuff there. So again, these are little hidden gems where you can have a getaway. You won't find them easily in other parts of United Arab Emirates. I enjoy also the desert park, the different types of. Again, I learn a lot here. They talk about the different type of ecology in the desert in UAE, Arabian oryx, all that sort of stuff. So I quite enjoy that. And it's got an Islamic botanical gardens there as well, which I quite liked. You can see all the types of plants which are mentioned in the Quran, and they grow there, the figs and the henna and all these sort of things, the black seeds and stuff. So yeah, there's plenty to do. I think you can go around in Sharjah, every day somewhere different, and still not go to the same place twice in 1 year. Like 365 days, you can go different places.
Yeah, it definitely has that aspect of if you want to go, like you said, you could literally go. I would imagine for weeks, maybe a different place each day.
Yes.
But places where you kind of feel you're coming out with something beneficial, something educational. Of course, there's so many fun things everyone can do. Everyone can go swimming. Everyone can, run around or whatever they do. But in Sharjah, you definitely feel like you can come out with something that kind of really matters at the end of the day. You've learned something new, you've experienced, you've picked up something new culture-wise, educational-wise. Sometimes
there's a great blend of nature and art and culture. I mean, I give an example of Al Noor Island, which
Yeah.
is a new one here. Just take a little walkway across this beautiful corniche.
We had an
here.
episode filmed there. Amazing.
Did you? Oh, it's
yeah.
fantastic. And then you go inside there. There's a butterfly park, so a butterfly house. You know, there's like 500 types of butterflies. Fascinating. You know, and everything is within, you know, easy access. And there's beautiful, again, art gallery there. So I really like that. You know, Emirates Literature Festival. You know, I've been to that here in Sharjah. I mean, it's fantastic. You know, I've been to some of these great conferences they've had here and events.
Of course, yeah. You mentioned that literature, and of course we have one of the biggest book fairs, the Expo here. Every year, it's one of the biggest in the world.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So that is something as well that people flock. And when you see people, whenever you go there, you see people coming from different countries, not just to, you know, not just as the sellers or the people who are, you know, are representing whatever company, but you see many people come from around the region as well to visit,
specifically for this,
to buy the
yes,
books, you know, to visit the book fair.
Yeah.
Question I always ask, because despite all this, you know, great, you know, facts and experiences you've had, did you face? I know you're going to say to me, I had 10 years of growing up in the Middle East, but of course, after that, you went back to the UK and you had a long stretch there. So, did you find, or did you come across any cultural challenges, whether big or small?
Not so many, because as I said, I had some, you know, I have a lot of Arabic friends before I came to UAE, and I lived in the Middle East, so I had certain expectations. I'm from Indian Pakistani background, so I have no problem culturally from there. I've lived in the West a lot as well, so I have no problems really with that. So I mixed well, and I worked in the field, and Africans and Asians and all types of people. I didn't have a problem culturally. So by the time I came to UAE, I already had been around quite a few places. Where I did have some cultural problems, I suppose, is in the driving, because the British way of driving is very, you know, you indicate, you wait politely for someone to come. Here you've got, I think, 100 nationalities driving styles.
I mean, that's true. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, I found that quite challenging. But guess what? I've become a better driver as a result. You know, there's not enough roundabouts. I was very used to roundabouts here. When I first came here, I realized if I want to go right, I need to go left first. You know, you go there and you go over and you go on the other side, right? Or if I want to go left, I have to go off the road. So that took me a while to get used to. I said, well, why should I go here if I want to go there? So it's just the system. So yeah, I found that probably the biggest challenge. But otherwise, culturally, no, I think it's a very dynamic mixing pot of nationalities, and I think it's great.
That's what I was about to say. You know, it's a mixing pot, and we often, I think until now, out of all the guests we've had, and we've had guests from various nationalities, even continents, no one has really come back and said, you know, I had this, you know, they've never really had what you would call in reality any real cultural challenge. But it's always interesting to ask each guest, and most of them have come out with the same, say, like, you know, so many nationalities here. I think it holds one of the, if not the Guinness Book of Records for the most nationalities, you know.
Really?
There's so many, you know, like that are here. So we often, you know, we find people say that, you know, like you said, I feel comfortable here, I feel safe here, I feel welcome here. And in many countries, I think if we're honest, many countries, even without naming, of course, some of those countries that people around the world aspire and look at them as the leaders of civilization, you find that person will say, you know what, I enjoy it here, I can earn good money, but I've faced so many racial taunts because of my color of my skin or the way I speak, where, you know, generally, you know, we don't generally get that here, you know.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the leaders of UAE have done a fantastic job, created a place for everyone. As I said in the beginning, there's something for everyone here. You can come in as a, you know, very simple person or a very high-ended person, and you can find your space here, and you can rise, you know, and there's opportunities here. And that's pretty amazing. I mean, you've got like more than 80% of the population is non-Emirati. So, and yet the Emirati traditions and heritage is still very strongly maintained here by the leaders. So I think that's an amazing job, to have something for everyone. You know, you can be yourself no matter what your background is. And I think that's really amazing, actually. I don't think there's anywhere in the world like that. In fact, no, I can't think there's anywhere like that. Because if you go to, let's say, if you go to some, I won't name countries, if you go to some country, you have to adapt more to that way. Here, you can have your own way of living, your own style, and nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to, you know, say change and be like this and be like the rest of the people. So I think it's fantastic, and it's really, is it a credit to the leaders of this nation.
I mean,
it's an example and it's a model for other countries actually to follow.
you may have already touched upon this, but apart from your work, what is the main reasons that you stay, and you probably would stay? I mean, most people I speak to as well, they say, look, even if my work finishes, I want to stay here. I don't want to go home, quote unquote. So what would be, what are the main things that would make you want to stay here? I mean, I'm pre-assuming that you would want to stay here, but we haven't met someone yet who says, like, I can't wait to leave. I'm just here for the money, as they say.
Yeah, I came here in 2008, so it's about 13 and a half years ago. And yeah, I came, work was one of the factors. I mean, I had work back in UK, so it wasn't that I needed to work here, but there were some draws here. But actually, before I talk about my reasons, because part of my work with looking at the employment and the workforce situation in UAE and Dubai and UAE in general, is that I realized that the old model of when, in my era in the 70s, when the working in the Middle East was a different type of model. It was generally considered so-called hardship posting. You'd come, you do 3-4 years, then you'd go back to wherever you came from. Nowadays, this region is, and this country is actually very attractive. It's not considered hardship at all. So people actually want to come here. So people who came here for 2, 3, 4 years end up staying here for 20 years. And they settle down. So before, the old model used to live in a bubble. You just go to your, expat hangouts and come back, and you wouldn't really mix with the locals. You wouldn't speak to much beyond your own community. This is what I had, my experience when I grew up in the Middle East. But now people need things like the art, the culture, philanthropy. These are all the roots, and the good education and schools, because these are the roots of laying down a foundation for society. You're not just coming in, doing your job and going back home. You're actually coming in, you're contributing to society. So that's something very clear I've seen, and which has happened here. And for my reasons was, I think I'll saw 3 or 4 S's, I suppose. Besides the job, the sun. We just need a bit of sun, after coming out from UK, and this amazing sunshine here. Every day I get up and say, oh, mashallah, it's clear sunny day today. Still, it's been 13 years. I'm still doing that now. Safety and security, very, very important. I've lived and worked in countries where safety and security is an issue, and it's one of the greatest blessings that you can, your family's safe, you're safe, you don't have to worry about things. I mean, and again, it's another credit to the rulers of Sharjah and the UAE, how they've made this place safe. You can walk around, you can leave your car unlocked, and there's very, very few countries in the world you can do that. So security, safety. A lot of families come here because they want to raise their kids in a safe environment. I mean, to be honest, in UK now it's getting less and less safe, generally speaking, but I won't go into that. So safety, security, and the other thing I found here is a smile, because everyone is smiling here, everyone is friendly. So these are all the pluses. You want to come to a place which is welcoming, and of course S for Sharjah. But so yeah, there's those reasons. And then overall, for myself as a Muslim, it's a place I can practice very freely. I can, in the mosque. I mean, in UK it's also free, but it's just not as accessible.
Yeah.
Here everything's on your doorstep. The food is halal. I mean, when I first came here, I put on, I think, about 15 kg, maybe 20 kg, because I said it's all halal. I'm eating all the meat, all the burgers, all the junk food, and I put on like 20 kg or something. So now I've calmed down about it. Now it's not such a big deal. But yeah, so the lifestyle, for Muslim lifestyle, is perfect here for me. And
I guess my final question for today's episode would be, because you're involved quite heavily in tourism, how have you seen Sharjah change since you came 13 odd years ago in the global tourism? Is it the same? Have you seen an improvement? And how have you seen it grow in yourself, being a tourist destination?
No, Sharjah is very smart. I mean, they realize that family is a very important factor. They've created a lot of facilities, as I mentioned, like Noor Island and these other. They've done a number of projects which will be family friendly. Yeah. And will be a draw. And there's a wide variety, as I mentioned, the nature, the arts, culture, heritage, and I've seen all these grow and evolve over the years. one of the things I really used to enjoy in Sharjah was the Corniche itself here, which is fantastic and beautiful, great place to hang out. They've developed that further. They've got all these new developments along there. They've got new facilities. So I think they keep evolving. They've definitely improved. Technology has played a huge part. Everything is online. Everything's on your app. You can get a bike now. You can book anything you want on your app. You can pay with your. So this has moved in leaps and bounds. So I think it's, as a tourist-friendly destination, it's definitely increased and improved.
And of course, we mentioned all those museums that have popped up over the years as well. So we see buses of tourists coming from other Emirates like Dubai to Sharjah to get that cultural heritage.
Yes, because you can make a museum. It can be pretty boring, but they've made very interesting museums. As I said, the Maritime Museum, you learn all about the pearl fishing. When I lived in Bahrain, I knew a bit about it, but here I really learned a lot more about it, and a brilliant collection of pearls. I mean, so they've made a lot of effort to make sure it's really engaging, interactive, and attractive for visitors and locals at the same time.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, Kamraan, it's been great having you on the show, and thank you for sharing your experiences with us here on Glimpses of Sharjah.
Thank you so much. Long may your projects succeed and grow and expand. Very happy. Thank you.